Okay, gang, here we are again, back with Crone's Crucible after an exciting week was had last time. We'll see what's going to go on. We are missing Mike tonight. I will get the videos up as we go on. Right now we're just got our photos up, but videos will get up over time as we start going. A little bit of recap will be in order at first, but does anybody want to mention anything related to their week, their holidays, their events here in game, anything? Anybody got anything going on?
I love to sing about the moon and the June and the spring.
Not what
That's
I
it.
would have expected, but okay.
Well, unfortunately, you're in autumn in Waterdeep, but yeah.
If you're gonna go anywhere, don't go there when you're sick, or else you'll spread it.
And I've been catching everything lately.
I've
Anyway,
actually had a pretty good season when it comes to sickness. Usually this is the time of year I'm horrible, but nope, I'm feeling pretty good.
Lucky duck. I think I may have caught the plague.
well, when last we met the crew, basically they had been awakened in the middle of the night to this explosion on the street. There were lots of witnesses, lots of people injured, a lot of dead, a lot of things went on. Their various faction leaders came rushing to see what was going on, and before very much longer, the city guard, the city watch, the constables, a bunch of mages, a bunch of priests, a bunch of people you've never seen before, all arrived en masse to take over the investigation on the street, and it's been unholy chaos ever since. The party has been trying to figure out exactly how they handle this quest, and behind the scenes I have given them a little bit of information related to the fact there's still one big important question that is out there. When we begin tonight, with what I put there in your list, we basically lost a half an hour from when we logged off last time. The street has cleared out. The bodies have been more organized, put on stretchers. They're being prepared for removal to the Hall of Justice. They're organized basically into a group of 8 that includes Heldar and the musicians and the servants, and a group of 3 that includes the courier that Renaer said was related to his father, and the 2 hooded figures that were near him. Apparently the various organizational people have determined that the 2 groups are 2 different things, and they're discussing the events related to it separately, related to the 8 and the 3. They seem to be grouping people on the streets related to that type of thing. The remaining guard and the remaining constables, the guard mostly is guarding to keep looky-loos, gossip mongers, etc. out of the alleyway, while the constables are very busy jotting down information about it. You can notice as you kind of move to look around the corner, you're being interviewed too. But as you kind of step sideways to look around the corner of the buildings, you can see that Vincent Trench and the Lady Hornraven are being heavily interviewed by the various constables, as is Tully and Fala. Tully has been joined by his brother, who is the head of the Emerald Enclave, and they're talking earnestly with constables on the east end of the alley, gesturing and doing things, whereas the Lady Hornraven and Vincent are gesturing around. You see them gesture to the roof of Fala's shop several times, which you can very well imagine has to do with either the figure that was seen up there or the item that was discovered up there. But you also notice that the Lady Hornraven steps out and points eastward, sort of. Give me your first perception roll of the evening. Let me get the photo off of here so that we can see the rolls.
Let's see, perception.
Is it all of us or?
All that are in the alley right now. Oh, dogs, don't start again. They always start to play fight. They get excited when I'm on the mic, and I apologize. They go into this play mode, but it gets very noisy at times, and I have to shut them down. But anyway.
Squirrels are amazing.
Nothing can escape.
Yeah, maybe
rolling this perception.
Yeah, you're
Nothing
not.
can escape my glowing gaze. What do my glowing eyes see?
The shepherd is not on the street. He has escorted Martem off to find his parents, and I will add that you find them rather quickly because they realize that the street where they left him with the Lady Hornraven is the street where all this happened, and they were quite panicked. They were standing in the crowds and were not being allowed to go out, go into the alleyway, and so they are quite panicked. But they are waiting for him outside, and so it doesn't take you very long for him to point out his very concerned parents who come running to him and hug him up. But the rest of you are stepping around and kind of watching to see what all the interviewers are doing up and down the street, and you notice that the Lady Hornraven is pointing at what appears to be the blaster. And she is gesturing back and forth, show it, and the way I'm going to say all of you pretty well made the perception roll with that, because the two of you were 13, 17, 22, so it's all pretty good. And she seems to be waving her hand from where she is, from right to left, as if she's describing movement or something that is going on there. So we now pick up, does the shepherd wish to say anything to Martem, ask him anything, or say anything to the parents as you deposit them?
So, yeah, I bring Martem over to his parents, and I'll ask his parents, if you don't mind, I wish to ask him a few questions now that we are away from the guards.
Yes, Martem, do you mind? What, you look like you've got healing burns. What happened to him?
He was a little too close to what happened. I made sure that there would be no permanent damage to him.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, Martem, I had no idea that such a thing would happen. Next time Harvest Tide comes around, I'm not going to let you out of my sight. And Martem just kind of nods stoically, like, Mom, I'm okay. He's like a 10-year-old boy starting to say, Mom, don't fuss over me in presence of other people.
Right. So,
Brett, what are you going to ask?
I will go with the Martem. I don't know if any of my compatriots had already asked you, so I'm just going to ask you some questions about what happened. We know that you found this necklace. Did you see who happened to drop the necklace or where it came from?
Yes, sir. That's what I was telling the other man. There was a man on the roof, and things happened, and I was looking first at what was going on the street, and all the noise that was interrupting the musicians, and then I saw this thing, and a man was on the roof, and he dropped something on the roof, and it went clatterty, clatterty, clatterty down the tiles and fell into the rain bucket. And that was when they went over.
Did you see which way the man went when he dropped his necklace?
Yes, he ran the way towards the west.
The west?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at my other questions. Did you see anyone else on the street before the explosion that weren't your friends or the people making music?
Oh, yes, sir. There were a lot of people, my friends, and then the man from the inn joined us, and he had a flute, and then there was that argument.
Argument.
Yes, sir. The three men. Well, there were four then.
4 men.
Yes, sir.
Which man did when you saw the 4th man? Where did he go?
Well, one man ran away on the other way, that way off down the street to the east, but he was almost killed too. The other three men, they were all killed, the ones that were fighting, and the man from the inn, he got upset and he was running to try and help him, and my friends turned and tried to help them too, and that was when it all blew up.
So the 3 men that were helping each other were trying to fight off against the other man.
The man, there was one man, well, you see, he kind of stands like he's trying to remember how it all happened. He says, you have to realize I was dancing and I was singing with our group and we were laughing and I wasn't paying attention till the argument started, and they started yelling at each other, and there were 3 men that were wearing black cloaks, and they were running after a man who was dressed very nice, and they all came running from the east really fast, and when they got to the corner, the man in nice clothes was getting caught up to. They snagged his cloak, and he pulled out a sword, and he was fighting them, and he was doing really well. I thought he was going to win. He was hurting them all, and they were getting beaten back, and then let's see. The man, I think it was the man that got away, he reached to the man and grabbed him and pulled something off of him, and the man got upset and tried to get it back, and then that was when it all blew up.
I think I get the picture. The man with the sword, the man that was fighting them all off, was he like us, like humans, or was he something else?
They were all humans, yes. There were no halflings or anything. They were all humans, but 3 of them.
Outside of the ones that were making music, yes.
Yes,
the ones
yes.
in the fight, they were all humans.
Yes. There were 3 men with black cloaks and 1 man that they were trying to harm.
And one of the men with the black cloaks, he managed to run away.
Yes, after the blast. I think he was hurt.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much for your help, Martin. And I'll stand back up and look to his parents. If any guards try to question you or Martin and you don't feel safe with answering any of their questions, you may come to the Trollskull Inn. That is where I reside. I am a anointed priest. I will be able to supervise any kind of questioning with the guards.
Thank you, sir. Do they know that he was involved? He's only a boy.
I don't know if they do. I kept him inside the inn before they arrived. But just as well, if they do decide to start questioning other people outside.
Bless you, sir. I appreciate that very much. Come, Martin, let's get you home and to bed. This is never going to happen to you again, I promise. Okay.
I smile, and then I start heading back towards Trollskull.
Very good. And what are the rest of you doing?
Cashin is going to Well, once the interviewers are done, he's going to talk to Lady Hornraven again.
All right. She is finishing up with the guards. The ones that are interviewing her and Vincent Trench, both of them are a little bit higher placed in the hierarchy. The guard is clearly marked as a sergeant. You would recognize that. He's not one of the ordinary city guards or the constables. He's a little bit higher ranking. And with him is that rather officious guard individual that is like, you might say, a plainclothes detective or lieutenant type who named Seth Cromley, who was the one that told you that he was going to have the inn closed for a month. They are finishing up, and she is saying, honestly, sirs, I don't remember anything else, and I really would like to go with my servants' bodies when you take them to the hall. I just want to be with them. So they finally ask a couple more innocuous questions that aren't very important and close their notebooks and move over towards the priests that are working and so forth and step away so you have a moment to get up to them. Renair, by the way, is standing by the servant's body, his father's servant's body.
Well, Cashin will approach her from behind and just gently touch her on her shoulder.
She will kind of start very slightly, not like she's terribly startled, but more like, oh no, not another one. But then she sees it's you and nods.
Apologies, it's just... I have one more question that I have to ask before you have to go, and me and my associates have to go about their business.
Yes, sir. What do you need to know?
Do you recall how close were you towards the altercation between the cloaked men and the?
You don't know about that.
Man?
You don't know about that.
Hmm?
That was out of your hearing.
What?
You don't know about the cloaked men. That was out of your hearing. I mean, about the altercation.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I heard that I'm pretty sure that he knew that there was an altercation.
We know that they're all grouped together, but the only person who right now knows that there was an altercation between people is the shepherd.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, the fact that there was an altercation, the fact that there was an argument right before the explosion is actually new information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty... Never mind.
No, I have listened.
We're in the alley. He's elsewhere.
But that's not his point.
I'm not disputing that.
Conrad, now you're hitting on it. That's been the problem. You don't have the information, and trust me, I listened to the video 4 times. You know from what Renair said that this was his father's servant. You know that there were 2 men with the alternate Zentarum symbol dead next to him. You know that 1 man ran away, and you have a pretty good idea something was taken off of him. That's all you know.
All right. I will rephrase the question. Did you see anything happen before the explosion?
Well, yes, sir. That fight.
The fight between all the cloaked men?
Well, the 3 cloaked men were trying to harm. I think he was a noble. He was dressed quite well, and that was we were dancing over at this end of where the explosion occurred, and from the east, these four men came running. I mean, they were moving very fast, and the three black-cloaked men were yelling at this noble. And I think they were thieves. They were trying to rob him or do something, and he was running and he was yelling at them and telling them to stay back or he'd hurt them, and they were laughing at him, and they caught him right there at the corner and started yanking things off of him. I thought they were like trying to tear his clothes off or something. And he turned around and pulled out a weapon and started defending himself quite well, I might add. It was obvious he had obvious sword training. He was clearly a noble with excellent teachers, but he was fending them off. They started backing away until one man ripped something else off him. I mean, he got very upset. He got just frantic, and he lunged at one of the cloaked men, stabbed him terribly. I think he probably killed him. The man fell to his knees, and right then, that orange arc happened, and the whole explosion blew all of them up. The only one of the four that didn't get killed outright was one of the black-cloaked men that ran off towards the east.
Did you overhear what they were saying? Anything that sounded important?
Well, let me see. The music was quite loud, and we were doing a lot. I know that the man that came from your inn got quite upset. He was closer to them than I was, and he got upset, and he turned, and he was going to help the noble. He was headed to help him. And let's see, the men were shouting something about, "Give us the stone."
And at that, Cassian just gives a curt nod and says, anything else?
No, I just know that there were many insults traded and something about, "You'll never have it," and then all this fight occurred, and he ran them through in the explosion. It all happened within just probably a minute or less.
And did you see which one of them took whatever it was off the man?
Yes, sir. It was the man who ran away.
Nodding, he just looked to Trench and said, "Thank you very much. If you'd like, me and one of my other associates can escort you home."
No, the guard have specifically said that I'm to go down for yet more interviews at headquarters. I am so sick of their interviews.
You're a proud lady of Waterdeep. I'm sure you can handle it.
I'm hoping they'll be finished with me soon. I just want to take Susanna and Lyle home. They need a proper burial.
All of them do. And with that, he gives her his bow and goes off.
Now, will Cassian be sharing any of what he got from her with anybody else?
With what?
Will Cassian be sharing any of what he got with anybody else?
As he'll walk back towards the group, he'll give a look towards Renair, a knowing look, and basically gesture with his head to meet up with him.
Very good. All right, what are the rest of you doing?
As I'm coming back, I see there's 4 people here, one of them being Mert. Is he still there?
The leaders are up in the northern part. They're slowly walking away. They are still within reachable distance if you need them, but they are clearly leaving. They're talking a little bit amongst themselves. More of what you hear is the kind of thing like, "Boy, that was terrible, wasn't it? Yes, we'll have to see what we can do," and so forth. They don't appear to be talking real detailed information, although each of them probably has details that they could share. They're not sharing it with the others.
Right. I'll call out a little loudly. Lord Mert, may I speak with you for a moment?
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
And as we get closer to the building, I just start saying, so obviously with all this happening about the payment, and as he gets closer, I start whispering to him about all the information that I just learned.
Very good.
Someone was targeted in an assault before the explosion, and something was stolen from them. The person that fled was the one that stole an item. I don't know if this fireball attack was specific in anything. I don't know if that's connected or anything like that.
He will look rather startled and very, very interested. What could have been stolen that was that important that they would risk such open accostement of a noble right on our streets?
I couldn't even tell you. As I said before, that on the cloak. Wait, no, it wasn't on the cloaks. It was on their necks. For this snake with a fist, right? I remember seeing a snake in a fist. I couldn't remember if it was on.
Correct. It was on their necks. Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
It looked like this.
Only you don't have it anymore. Lady Vajra has that piece of skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have shown you what it looked like, but we no longer possess it.
We were forced to give up our snack.
My goodness, Conrad.
So, then yeah.
Wait, what?
I don't know if I think that was actually Sam.
Oh, okay. Somebody burped.
Not I.
That was me making an epiphany joke.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, derailment. Continue.
Anyways, trying to stay on point. I don't know, but if this new detachment of the Zentarum is going to be this bold, it's probably something that we should definitely be looking into. You should nip this bud before it becomes a bigger problem.
I agree entirely. This is why no noble will be safe. The finances of the city won't be safe. This is terrible.
I would have, with that nobility, I would have mentioned that the man that was assaulted was fine cloaked. Don't know if he was noble or not, but he looked the part at least.
Yeah, a lot of people are assuming that he's a noble simply because he was dressed in much better class clothing than the normal
he
person.
The part, we just don't know the part. I'll obviously look into this as much as I can.
Yes, please do. I will be interested in anything you can find out, especially this whole thing about the faction breaking. We've got to find out what's going on.
Should I go to you for any new information, or should I still go to the Ticketmaster?
No, this far exceeds anything of the normal bent. Please come directly to me.
Very well. Thank you for your time, and then I'll bow and start heading back into the inn.
Madam DM, I did send you a whisper. I'm not sure if you saw it.
No, I'm registering that none of you heard the argument.
Okay.
Oh, I don't mean like in detail, but I would have heard if there was sounds of combat with Nokri's background and whatnot.
No, I'm ruling that no.
Okay.
You guys were
I just
sleeping,
wanted to be honest.
and this was on the street, and there are arguments and things happening on the street, and you didn't pay any attention to it till the fireball went off.
Madam
Okay.
GM, I've got a question.
Just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Before Varen had skedaddled with his parents back to the shop, he did inform us that there was someone fleeing the scene, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that you know from several sources.
Okay. In that case, Rel would actually lean down to his compatriot and whisper, Epi, do you think maybe we should get out of here while the kitten's good, see if we can track down some leads of our own?
We do not know. We are very conspicuous. If we can slip away, we probably should, just to attempt to find information relative to our interests.
At that
GM,
point,
is there an opening?
Say that again.
Is there an opening for us to for us two shady folk to depart?
The guards, as I was going to say, as you came, as it was back to me, that now the guards are moving in place to pick up the stretchers. They picked them up, and they are starting to form up to move off the street. You can see that all over the street, the constables are fading away. The city guard is finally opening the entrances to allow people to come and go from the street. So yes, it is starting to clear where you will be able to move.
We should perhaps simply then wait for things to calm down. The trail may be cold, but we can find our own way.
True enough. Plus, I've got a few ideas where we can start.
Yes.
So we shady folk are just going to shady in the shade. While we
I'm
wait.
gonna put my hands on both Shady and the Shade's shoulders.
Yes.
Well, at that point, Cashin is returning, and he's got a look in his eye.
And I would assume that the shepherd would be returning about then too. So we'll say all of you are finally grouping up for the first time with your various pieces of information. So give me what you are going to share individually with each other.
Well, Cashin is going to share the fact that Lady Hornraven overheard a bit of what was happening. Specifically, that the hooded thugs were after a, quote, stone.
Brilliant seems very interested in that.
I'm going to just coax my shady children and my not so shady children off the street towards the doors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for the guards to allow me to pass.
Yeah, they're
And I'm staring at them.
yeah,
Arms crossed.
they recognize you. They saw you leave earlier, and they will motion to you. They'll group over to one side, and they're now opening the street for people to pass.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to go back to my residence. And then I just walk past them.
Do you have a problem with authority figures?
I think this is the problem with these authority figures.
I didn't even hear what either of you said.
I do. Do you have a problem with that?
Not at all. I knew there was a reason we were friends.
We are now. We are friends now.
Boys, you're both very pretty individuals who wear hoods. Inside, please.
But we are complimenting each other.
I know.
We are getting
inside,
along
please.
for once.
Which is even weirder. Get inside, please.
We are already inside. Look around you.
I thought we were still on the street. My apologies.
Epi is the smart mouth child.
We are not your child. We are biologically unsimilar. I am. We are back.
We are in the house now.
We are within the abode.
Rogaldorn.
So, what information did you all gather? I can assume, based on what I'm seeing on your faces, it's something interesting.
Well, Lady Hornraven overheard that the thugs were trying to take a stone from Lord Neverember's man. And the one that survived the fireball was the one that was able to take it.
That is the same thing that Martin told me.
So it's possible that some of them were dead before, if there was an altercation with violence. Some of these bodies were dead before the blast went off. So then the question now becomes: was the blast also used just to cover their trail, or was this a completely separate situation?
It
I
is
don't.
certain Martin saw the figure that stole the item run to the east. He saw the figure on the roof run to the west.
Yes, something tells me that the Nimble Ride is of a different group.
Nimble right.
It was described that the thing on the roof was
I don't know this fact, Icely.
and
Yeah,
I can't
she's
do my voice
explaining.
right now, so I'm going to talk normal.
That's
It was
ridiculous.
described that the thing on the roof was not exactly human by nature. It may have been what, automaton, mechanical. What are these things?
Abominations.
Well, as I said, they're associated with the Temple of Gond, and they're quite popular during the festival.
They are abominations and should not be trusted.
Oh, come on now, Epi.
all right,
Don't.
Kettle.
Come on now, Epi. Don't
I'm
say
sorry.
that.
Wow.
I know.
Excuse me, silence. Repeat your statement, Vein Jumper.
Cash
It's
in
Vein Leaper.
It's whatever he says it is.
We appreciate your correction. We shall remember it in the future.
Okay, it's now official. He's Vein Leaper. Okay, so anyway,
Vein leper.
Cashin, he asked you to repeat what you said about the festival.
The Nimble Rites are apparently associated with the Temple of Gond. So, they're bound to the temple. They're not supposed to leave it unless it's during the festival.
And yeah, Cashin would know, because this is an annual affair, that there is a festival that comes a little bit later in autumn that has to do with crafts and crafting, that is very big with the Temple of Gond. They have a very big place to play in it. The gnomes are out in force with their creations and so forth. I can't think of the name of the festival at the moment, but he would know that this later festival, there is like a march of the creations, and all of their clockwork creations are marched in this parade, and that the Nimble Rites frequently are on parade in this festival.
So he had
What would I roll to know? Because like these Nimble Rites are essentially they're golems.
Yeah.
What would I have to roll to know if they even have the capability of using magical items such as this necklace of fireballs?
Probably a history roll.
Okay. Oh, I don't even have the sheet open today. History. That is a 13.
You would know enough about such creations to know that it differs by creation. Some of them are very advanced, almost cybernetic sort of things that are paraded, but these are the advanced technology, and those things, they are what the Nimble Rites are. The Nimble Rites are the nimble creation. The word right, W-R-I-G-H-T, means something that is wrought. And these creations, these wrought items, are the nimble ones. They are dexterous. They are able to use their hands better than others, whereas other things might be little creepy crawlies or mechanical cats or just clay golems or something. The Nimble Rites are the ones that specifically are given that title because they are able to do more dexterous things. So it is quite conceivable that a Nimblewright would be able to manipulate something, would be able to climb, would be able to run, etc.
Okay.
Would I be able to roll a religion roll to see if what do I know about the actual Temple of Gond? Like, would this actually be in their MO? Would they be actually at all interested in a magical artifact like the stone?
House of Inspired Hands, that's it.
Yeah, it's the Temple of Inspired Hands is the name, but Temple of Gond will work just as well, because Gond is the god of creations. But give me a religion check.
Eesh.
You just simply wouldn't know. What you do know from your history with various religions is that it differs by individual. I mean, you might have a temple to someone that's very holy and very high justice, and you might have an evil person develop in that temple and do something untowards. So it basically what you know of human nature is that what the temple is dedicated to, or how good or evil it is, doesn't mean squat when it comes to maybe somebody might have done something untoward.
Gotcha.
Anybody else have any clarification roles that they need to do before we go on?
Epiphany's just staring at Catherine.
He's going to be unfazed by it as Cash and Just proposes that they should go check in at the House of Inspired Hands.
Very good. The sun is up over the horizon by now. It was 4 a.m. when all this happened, and it's been a couple of hours, and the sun has now risen. It's just barely over the horizon, very early dawn, probably about 6 o'clock in the morning, but the temple never sleeps. There's always someone available at any of the temples.
Here's a quick question. Are we going to run under the assumption that these two incidences are connected, or do we want to treat them as separate incidences until we can find the connection?
Cashin is treating it as separate, yeah.
So then the next question becomes, how do we want to go about finding out more information? Split up or stick together?
Well, we don't know where the figure that stole the item has gone off to.
I will say something OOCly related to the Waterdeep campaign.
Yes.
The Waterdeep campaign lends itself very much to splitting the party. It gives you individual quests, which you may or may not share with others. It gives you a dozen different leads, and obviously in the interest of time, a normal person would say, well, you go off and handle this, and you go off and handle that, and I'll take care of this. However, for players and time while they are sitting there waiting for their turn to come up and for something to happen with them when a particular quest or track may take the entire evening, that can be a problem. So I would recommend that as much as possible you guys do things together simply because it's more interesting that way.
Or else we have another night without the shepherd.
Hey, that was your decision.
And
That had nothing to do with fleeing the party.
Let me be your lesson.
Yeah.
I'm not splitting up the
Learn-
party anymore.
Anyway,
Learn from Brett. Yeah.
I'm gonna go search for a horse in the middle of the night.
Oh, really? Okay, you go have fun with that. We're gonna go over here where the action game is going to be.
Don't you try to spin this on me.
Well, stop.
Anyway,
And
going
I did-
back in character. Going back in character for a second.
I
William
did-
would actually peek.
I did remember the horse's name. It was Maxine.
Oh, that's nice. But speaking up in character for a second, Rillian would actually speak up and say, well, we've got two leads right now. One, a cloaked figure that stole something away quite precious, and some ne'er-do-wells possibly hiding out in the Temple of Gond. I actually know a few Gond priests. The funny little chaps they are, but we could go to either one, but if you're worried about having some difficulty tracking down the figure who stole away into the night, Epi and I have some experience hunting down certain individuals. What would you call it, Epi? Bounty hunting we used to do, or what would you call it?
Kidnapping?
I take offense to that.
Kidnapping.
Sleep.
Kidnapping.
We did not put children to sleep.
It is a universal term. Doesn't matter if you're a child or a man.
He doesn't know what it means, though.
Abducting. And I'm equally experienced with tracking down ne'er-do-wells.
Right, so it's not really a problem. We could go to either one. Frankly, I'd put my vote on going after the fellow who stole the rock, the pretty rock.
We would agree.
I would agree as
True.
well.
The
Well,
question that the DM has is, how will you go about that?
Well, we know that the Temple of God won't be going anywhere.
We would shatter
So-
kneecaps until we find the information.
how?
It is also the matter of if this is indeed a separate incident, we don't want any more of these nimble rights acting on their own accord and assaulting the people of Waterdeep.
Unless we have
If
the
they're-
end closed for far longer than it needs to be. We can get, in the interest of our business, most likely it would seem in our best interest to investigate the nimble rights first. If we can prove that the situation with that has nothing to do with the other thing, we may be able to open up sooner if we solve one before the other. Clearly, the only thing I would think they would do is potentially find someone to tend to their injuries, but that's like finding a needle in a haystack. I don't know where a one of Criminal Underground would go for healing.
We do not know either.
No, absolutely not.
Insight check.
You don't know
Well done.
crap.
I believe
Yeah,
them.
you're darn right you do.
You know
Well-
what? That natural one, that actually makes it like, I believe. Wait, no, they're too convincing. I don't believe them.
No, you're actually starting to think these guys might be on the up and up.
All of you would know that there are
Or maybe
many
they're just
options.
dumb.
All of you would know there are many options. You would know that you could go to your factions, and obviously your factions have healers that they do on the QT to try and patch you up if you've gotten in any kind of trouble. There are actually hospices around the city where people are trained in the healing arts. There are various temples that will heal you. There are a lot of things, and of course, you guys can all guess that people could go back to their private residences and possibly be able to be healed up. So it's just a matter of where this guy went to the east.
I would actually like to roll a history check to see, because the guy fled westward, right?
No.
He fled east. The nimble right fled west.
Okay, he fled eastward. I actually want to see if I know, judging some of the paths that he might have taken, if there are any healers that wouldn't ask any questions, or if there are any certain faction safe houses along that route.
And I was going to ask the same thing, minus the faction safe houses.
Give me an intelligence check to see how much you remember of the map of the city and your time in the city.
Oh, come on, dice, be happy with me. Oh, not bad.
I'm going to move you over to the map of the whole city as a whole so that you can take a look at what you've got with the Trollskull Alley and the directions that were involved.
Alright, when it happened,
Me.
figure fled, the nimble right fled there, that direction, and our little hooded friend fled this way.
Right. So basically, the as you look at these street names here, the black-cloaked individual fled towards Sayerdun Street, and the Nimblewright guy fled towards Windborne Street.
All right.
So, do we know of any healing places, or I guess also in Sam's case, does he know any faction safe houses?
Right, he got
east of us?
right. I need to answer that question for you. To the east is a fairly well-to-do nobility district. Some number of the open lords live that way, as well as the up-and-coming nobles who are climbing the ladder and trying to become lords of Waterdeep. There is quite a bit of nobility and fancy estates to that direction, and you know that the temple, the House of Inspired Hands, the Temple of Gond, is to the west. As a matter of fact, it shows on your map it is up.
Huh.
Right over there.
I'm willing to investigate this temple with the automaton-type creatures. To get that matter settled first, since their actions did the most damage to this residence.
Yeah, but with the Zend, who knows where he could have gone, and that's a much shorter area to comb over, because he couldn't have gotten far with his injuries.
Depends on who his contacts are.
That is a temple, correct?
Yes.
Epi doesn't do well with temples.
We will remain calm.
And this temple, I will tell you when you get to it, is not quite like other temples.
Although it's still a temple, right?
Sort of.
It's more of a workshop. Or factory.
Yeah, it's a very strange temple.
Anyway, I might have an inkling where he could hide here and there. So really, it's all up to what you guys want to do. You want to go after Mr. Cloak, or you want to go after Mr. Roboto?
Let's deal with the bomb first. I feel that might take less time.
And we may be able to find another lead to the thief.
See
Yeah. All right.
if there's any connection first, and then we can take it from there.
Oh, that reminds me. I'll be right back. Roland would go into the kitchen and retrieve the 5 beads of fireball he had hidden and put them in his satchel. And you guys would just see him stuffing something into one of his side satchels as he's coming out of the kitchen. He says, "Okay, I'm ready."
I would recommend leaving the egg. It may not be safe for it out in...
Oh, I don't have my Eggy Weggy. Oh, speaking of which, I need to go check my Eggy Weggies. I'll be right back.
As you get close to the fireplace, you hear...
No.
Yes! Yes!
You see some very bald chicks that are fairly good-sized chicks. They're bigger than, certainly bigger than chicken chicks. They're chicks that are, you know, size of the chicks are about the size of maybe a bluebird.
Aww.
They have long necks and long legs. They're very scrawny, long, gangly-looking chicks, and they're squawking hungrily.
Congratulations, you're a mother.
I know, it's amazing! I'm gonna roll a nature check to see if they're healthy. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm gonna try anyway, because that's the player way. Oh god, I have no idea.
We will attempt to assist, friend Rillian. Can I do a roll?
Yes.
He would actually know more nature than I do.
Would it be nature or
It'd
medicine?
be nature, because you would have to know what these are in order to figure out what it is.
They look
They
delicious.
are birds.
They are burbs.
I
Tell
don't
me
know
they
what.
are off the they are off the menu.
Why would they be off the menu?
Because I've got a good feeling about them. They may be useful in the future, and they're just so cute.
They have aged properly.
Right.
I don't want to. I don't want to stack the nature checks, but can I just roll it on the dumb curiosity?
Yeah, go ahead. Anybody who's looking at these things can.
Oh yeah,
God,
no, that's me.
no one knows. Okay, maybe the shepherd.
We're like a bunch of idiots.
Cash and get in here.
Cash walks in. They're chickens. Bye.
Okay. So we have no idea what the hell these things are.
Cashin and the shepherd just barely make it because of their time in the city. I'm giving the two of them advantage.
All right.
Based on what you have
Barely.
seen, this is a fairly common bird in the city, especially around abandoned buildings. These are cranes that fly around and are common to the city, large white cranes, and they frequently nest on empty chimney tops.
Congratulations, you have a crane.
Oh, they're adorable.
Now, as to their health, you don't know, but you can identify, having seen some chicks that were knocked off at times, that this is one of the house crane chicks.
I'll be right back.
And off he goes to the kitchen again to get him something to eat.
Yeah, and this is gonna be gross, so get ready for this.
No,
No.
please
Are
don't.
they carrion birds?
No,
No.
not. No.
Rillian brings back a small tub of what happens to be, what seems to be like bait, some dried beetles and stuff that you would use as bait for vermin or bait for fishing. He unscrews the lid, he grabs a few pinches full, and you actually see him drop them into his hood.
Oh god.
There's a very loud crunching sound.
Let's go. He'll catch
Oh,
up.
we're doing this.
No.
Okay.
And then he leans over and just starts.
I've already long since left the room.
Utterly
same as
fascinating.
Is there any fish? Is there any fish in the bait?
I'd say a few dried pieces of fish. Yeah, this is kind of like just stuff you scraps.
The two chicks hungrily, as you take it out and drop it in their beaks, they hungrily snap it down. As a matter of fact, they kind of fight each other a little bit, kind of shove each other aside, trying to get
Share.
to Mama's food.
I am horrified, yet slightly interested.
Yeah, he just
I'll keep watching.
he just keeps doing this for about a minute until the whales start settling down. Because if there's one thing I know about chicks, they're never not hungry, but when their squealing starts to go down to a certain volume, you know it's safe to leave them alone after that. After that, he'd just pick them up from the place in his fireplace, and he'd go upstairs and set them in a safe place in his room where they can't get down or knock each other over or anything.
Very good.
Make a nest out of your blanket.
Probably somewhere where there's like ridges, like I said, where they can't knock each other over, because I know some birds like to do that too.
Yep, that's why I said nest.
Yeah. So yeah, you just make sure they're safe, they're secured, they're out of harm's way, and says, "All right, Mama Rel is going to go probably kill some people. You guys be safe.
No killing each other.
No killing each other." Is there any chance I could? Is there any chance I could? Is there any chance I could determine would the shepherd or Cashin have told them, hey, that one's male and that one's female, or are they both male, or what?
At this
Cashin is long
Fine.
gone.
There is no way to tell at this stage. They're just a couple of bald
Okay.
chicks. They don't even have any pin feathers yet.
Okay, Relium will leave them a few extra pieces of dried fish and then leave.
One of them snatches it up and the other one pecks at him.
Eat your food.
Okay.
He exits and says, "Oh, this is gonna be great."
Fatherhood becomes you. Now let's go.
He spits on the street and says, "I agree."
Especially the dried beetles part.
Epiphany grabs one of his beetles.
If I wasn't feeling sick before, I'm feeling worse now. So thank you.
You're welcome. I had this plan when she said egg.
I hate you.
Ignorance is bliss.
Of course, they had to hatch in the middle of all of this. Okay, so you guys set out towards the west, I take.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Straight on Dilzorin Street.
Yeah, it'll take you, I think, half an hour to an hour to get there. It's a fair distance across there. Yeah, it's a mile. So it probably will take you, unless you're really trotting fast, it'll take you about half an hour to get there.
I don't run.
All right, so you arrive at the Temple of Gond, and for those of you who have not seen it before, it doesn't look quite like you were expecting. Come on, map, be nice. In the distance, as you come up the street, you can see the temple ahead of you. It stands well above the buildings around it. It looks like a giant golem is attacking the city. This huge metal monstrosity stands many, many stories high, possibly 15 stories high, with an arm that reaches even higher than that, well into the skyline of Waterdeep. And the huge metal golem is holding aloft a sphere that apparently means many things related to the world of creations. As you get nearer and nearer, you are able to see this thing getting bigger and bigger as you approach things. It is certainly not your average temple and what you would expect. As you get a little bit closer, like turn the street right onto where the Temple of Gond is located, you notice that there are several large symbols on the outer walls that are a toothed cog with 4 spokes that are colored kind of like a compass rose, indicating the Temple of Creation or the Temple of Inspired Hands that these things are. And as you are looking at this temple, some of you haven't seen it before, perhaps in a little bit of amusement, I would like all of you to roll perception.
I was gonna ask, so I guess I won't ask it now.
Oh, come on. I used my good perception roll at the beginning of this.
Because I think
never mind,
I
that's
see
easy.
something on the screen, but...
Oh, yeah, I totally see something. 2 somethings.
I mean, I hope my passive perception would work.
I'll take that 16.
Any of you with either a roll or a passive perception higher than 13?
All right.
Oh, yeah, I have a 15 for passive.
Same.
Would notice that there is something moving around on the top of the sphere that is held aloft. And yes, you can see it on the screen as you are there. One thing looks like it's a humanoid. It is kind of dancing around on top of the sphere. Doesn't look like it's doing anything terribly important, but you can just barely make out as you get closer that this figure holds up its hand and tosses something skyward. It is a very small object. From a distance, it almost looks spherical. Almost looks like it's a sphere, but it is tossed off of it. The sphere is not orange, in case you might ask that. It is dull brown, looks like it's glinting a little, like maybe it's made out of metal. The sphere seems to do like a figure eight or a loop-de-loop, like it's not quite functioning right. It bounces off the globe once, then starts spiraling through the air out of control, coming directly towards the group of you.
Uh-oh.
What are you going to do?
Cashin is going to just keep his hand on his rapier, but otherwise just wait until this thing gets closer.
Is it like it's going towards us in a
Out of control manner.
out of control manner? Okay.
Yeah, it does not. It's not coming directly at you. It's like
it's coming towards us, but it's coming towards us in a way that is like it's
Not straight.
not straight. Yeah.
just a second. Let me do a background roll here for just a second.
While it's doing that, Rillian's going to wave at it and says, "Hi, Mom, I'm on MV." That's
I
magic
just
vision.
slowly look at Relian and go, what?
Fourth dimensional wall trickery. Don't worry about it.
Uh-huh.
With you, I have to worry. But in a good way.
The group of you kind of, this thing's going back and forth, and the group of you kind of step back and sort of scatter, but Nakri notices that it is heading directly towards her. And the closer it gets, it looks like a bird made out of metal that is trying to fly and is completely out of control. It will make a standard weapon attack on you. Just a second. It will come right at Nakri.
I should have Sacred Flame. I was thinking of it, and I decided not to.
It rolls a 17. What's your armor, Nakri?
18. I raise my shield.
It bounces off of your shield, goes, and crashes into the pavement and goes,
Epiphany immediately runs over and starts slamming his hoof foot on top of it.
No. I'm going to attempt to scoop it up and try to get it away from his vengeful foot.
The thing, as you pick it up, it's just a bunch of broken pieces that obviously was once in a bird shape. You can see metal wings and beak and legs and so forth, but it's now just a
And now
bunch
it's
of
completely flat.
broken, smashed pieces. Give me another perception roll. This will not be passive perception because all of you are looking at the bird for a large extent.
Oh, there's all my good perception rolls for the night.
I really gotta get some wisdom in here.
Epiphany and Shepard look skyward to after they realize what this thing was, and they notice that the humanoid figure on the top of the dome was standing just stock still for a moment and then runs across the top of the dome and disappears.
We do not like temples.
Well, at least now we have a valid complaint to go up to their door with.
I'm gonna pick
Right.
up the thing. So, what exactly was the thing that fell? 'Cause,
It was a mechanical bird.
It was a mechanical sphere-shaped bird.
I'm gonna.
Well, it
carefully-
looked sphere-shaped from a distance, but as it got closer, it looked more like a sparrow.
Gotcha.
Chunky bird.
I'm just gonna
Chunk bird.
carefully pick it up and hold it. I don't think this was intentional.
If it was intentional, then it was obviously a failure. Either
It was an
way,
act of
we have
war, we should
reason.
treat it as such.
Epiphany. No.
Either way, we should go to the house now.
Well, at least now we have an invitation. We're returning it.
I just said that!
This is also true. I'm just agreeing with your assessment.
Sounds like there's a crazy breeze in the wind.
No, there's nothing crazy about him. He's perfectly sane. You just have
Relian's head snaps towards you so quickly you swear you hear his neck crack.
Just ignoring it.
Look, whatever differences you two may have, right now we're working together, so let's just put them aside and keep going forward, shall we? We'll find ourselves much happier for it.
Oh, sure, yeah, sure. I'll just ignore, being called crazy and my little brother being called an abomination. Yeah, sure, I'll just ignore that.
Do not worry, friend Brilliant. We remember.
Time and place, my darlings, time and place.
So you accept that you're his little brother now?
Cashin's just gonna go to the temple.
Boys, time and place. I'm gonna keep walking.
Epiphany just looks really confused and in deep thought.
You normally correct him when he calls you his little brother, and you didn't this time.
Don't overstress him. Don't put words in his mouth. Just let him come to things on his own terms.
As you step in the main doors of the House of Inspired Hands, you look around, and if you hadn't been told that it was a temple that you were in, you simply wouldn't believe it. It looks like a hubbub of activity for some kind of very advanced workshop. There's steam spouting out of pipes, there's gears whirring, there's lots of activity, lots of work tables with clockwork things on them. There's a row as you walk into the entrance of pedestals with inventions on it and little plaques underneath each of these highlighted inventions that are there.
Displays?
Yes, they're displays with, there's like 8 of them along, 4 on each side that seem to have little plaques underneath them. And as you walk further in, you very quickly, as you look around, can recognize that the acolytes are the ones in very plain brown robes. They are not just gnomes, as you might have been led to expect.
I'm guessing probably some dwarves in there, I'm guessing.
There's everything. There are quite a number of humans. There's even dragonborns. There are all kinds of races there. Obviously, the talented crafting people. And the acolytes seem to be in plain brown robes, but as they go up to the higher level priests of Gond, you see that they wear a white smock, shall we say, laboratory smock over the brown robe, and they have an apron with gold trim on it that has lots of pockets where there are tools that have almost a mystical sort of look to them. They're made very fancy, whereas the acolytes are running around with ordinary hammers and pliers and what have you, very busily running errands for everything else.
Well, Cashin is first going to scan for the nearest figure of high authority.
There is a woman not far inside who is directing a bunch of acolytes and giving them instructions on their various things that they have created, basically telling them that one of them needs to improve on this or the other thing, and you gather that she is of some degree of ability.
Well, Cashin will just walk behind her and politely wait.
One of the acolytes politely looks at her and kind of bows and kind of like points behind her, and she turns and looks over her shoulder at you. Oh, may I help you? Welcome to the Temple of Gond. Do you need a blessing of creation, my son?
No, we're actually here on a, let's say, a personal matter that you may be interested to hear about.
Oh, really? All right. Exactly what is it?
Well, we were just passing through. We were actually looking up at the statue of the temple when a figure at the top of the temple threw something at us.
Figure on. Wait, explain more, please.
We couldn't really get a good look at the figure. It was humanoid in shape, but the thing it threw at us looked to be a mechanical bird. I'm sorry to say that it's destroyed now. One of my associates was very zealous in anger over the thing attacking us.
Could I see the remains, please?
And he directs her towards Relian and Nokri.
I'm the one holding it, but okay.
Well, I remember Relian picking it up.
I thought I picked it up.
No,
I picked it
Relian
up and you
cradled
took
it.
from me.
Yeah.
I still have the beak.
You have parts of it. We both each have parts. There you go. Oh my god.
Okay, so what is Nokri going to do when cash and motions are forward?
I'll look over at Relian and see who wants to go up. Just basically, just kind of like giving him a look of, do you want to take this one or should I? And like just offers the pieces to him.
Sure. He just kind of scoops up the rest of the bird, maybe a gear or spring hitting the floor as they're like shuffling parts between their arms before he carries it over to the woman and says, "Here you go. It's a fine piece of work, or was."
Oh my goodness, he's at it again. I swear I'm going to turn him off for a year.
I'm sorry, him?
Yes.
We'd appreciate some more extrapolation if you'd be so kind. Who is him, my good lady?
Well, we just refer to him as Nim. He's one of the Nimblewrights. This particular one is a bit above the ordinary, and he's got a bit of a problem, you see. Most creations just take the orders that are given to them, and they do what they're told. But Nim is a bit more intelligent than most, and that is both a blessing and a curse. He was gifted to us by a Lantanese wizard, and we've had nothing but trouble since then. He's always trying to create things on his own, and therein lies the problem. Since most of his creation go awry, we wind up with things like this.
I can certainly understand your worry about such things, but at the same time, that's kind of beautiful in its own way, isn't it? Isn't that kind of what Gon's all about? I mean, a creation building creations. I mean,
yes, but when he causes people problems like this, it's exactly why we keep telling him that he's bound to the temple and he can't go running off. And the creations need to stay on the grounds because some creations are dangerous.
Can we speak with him?
Well, yes, I'll take you up to his room. It's quite a climb. I hope all of you are prepared.
That's perfectly all right. We don't mind a little bit of exercise. I have a bit of a question. Have you seen all of his creations by any chance?
Well, I think so, but when you present this bird to me and I didn't know anything about it, I can't really answer that question, can I? He is supposed to bring me his creations. I told him even the most rudimentary acolyte here must bring me their creations, and he frequently does these things in quiet, and I don't know what he's doing.
Perhaps he wanted to impress you with something that worked fantastically, and unfortunately it didn't.
Sounds like a problem child, to be perfectly honest.
Yes, a problem child that isn't far too intelligent for his own good, to a manner of speaking, but he will either learn or he won't. I don't know what I'm going to do, short of simply removing his mechanisms. Come, I'll take you up to his room.
We would support that endeavor.
So she starts up, and you wind and you wind and you wind up a sterile spire case that is obviously going up the arm of the golem temple.
So, question: this intelligent,
Nimble, right?
Nimblewright. Thank you. Sorry, I've never really heard of them before, so the name slips. Does he interact much with others at all, or is he usually kept so separate from everyone?
He keeps himself separate to a large extent. I've been petitioning the rest of the high priests to formally induct him as an acolyte so that we can keep a closer eye on him. But they are resistant to allowing the mechanisms to join the order, and therein lies part of the problem. And you climb, and you climb, and you climb. She's not a young person, but she seems to take the stairs quite well. She's surprisingly healthy, and she just keeps on going up. Finally, after climbing for about 10 minutes up this spiral staircase, you come clear up to an attic room area, and she raps on the door. There is no sound from inside. She then raps harder and says, "Nim, open the door." There is no sound from inside.
I cast Thaumaturgy to open the door.
I was just gonna shoulder check it, but if you want to do that, sure.
The extra.
Or you know, thieves' tools.
Nope, Thaumaturgy.
Do we even know? Okay, here's a dumb question. Do we even know if the door is locked?
Yeah, I was about to say, Rel's going to go over and test the lock.
If Thaumaturgy doesn't work, it's locked then.
Thaumaturgy did not open the door.
The door is locked.
Nim, open this door this minute, immediately. I am not going to stand for this. You hear me? Open this door.
Hold on. Milady, can I try something?
Yes.
I'm kind of curious about this. Relian is going to reach out towards the door, and he's going to knock in a rhythm, just... He's going to see if that does anything.
And from the other side, you hear...
All right, now let's just. He's going to continue the process. He's going to continue rapping out rhythms but leaving the last few notes dead until, kind of build up a rapport with this thing.
I legitimately hate everything about this.
Yeah.
Same.
We know you're in there, Nim. You're knocking back. Now come out this moment.
Master Nim, you're not in trouble. We simply want to speak to you and give you back your frankly amazing invention.
Excuse me.
Oh, my what?
Your mechanical...
actually, let me retcon that. You hear,
Okay.
And yes. The door slowly, you hear a latch lifting on the other side, and the door creaks open, and there is a Nimblewright peeking through the crack in the door.
Ron's gonna wave. Hi.
And Cashin will just say to the Nimblewright, now, Nim, is that your name, correct?
He nods. Valletta says, "Let me explain something. First of all," and she glares at the Nimblewright, "he may be in trouble," and the Nimblewright kind of ducks back like he's really afraid. "And second of all, he cannot speak directly. He has to use sign language, which I know. I have taught it to him. Nim, come out here and tell us what's going on." And the door slowly opens, and the Nimblewright steps out like about an 8-year-old child that's been caught with its hand in the cookie jar. And it's just like, when it comes out and it motions its hand, and she says, "Yes, you are in trouble. Did you make this?" And she points over to the bird. And he kind of looks at the bird sideways and goes, Nim, did you make this bird?
Well, it's wonderful craftsmanship. I've got to ask though, was it meant to attack people? Oh, what'd you build it to do?
To fly.
Oh, just to fly, just to flutter on the breeze. That's wonderful.
So it wasn't out to attack you, Nakri. It just
No.
couldn't keep its pace.
Now, Nim, you're going to have to ask this question because it's very important. Were you outside of the temple last night?
Valletta turns around at that and looks at you just completely nonplussed. He can't leave the temple. None of the Nimblerites can. They are bound with spells to the temple. And you see him kind of look odd.
Yeah, could I insight check when he shook his head?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't tell anything with automatons.
Milady, the Nimblerites you all make here on the grounds are bound to the temple. However, you said this, frankly, a quite endearing marvel of craftsmanship was gifted to you, correct?
Yes.
Were the necessary spells ever interwoven with him once he was gifted to you?
Oh, yes. Nim is quite bound to the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And now Cashin's actually thinking of something now. But does anything he creates bound to the temple?
No, I imagine not. Nim, have you been making anything besides this bird? I know you've made a cat. I know about that one. But that one didn't last long. It fell off the parapet. What else have you been making?
Are we in the room? Or are we still at the door?
No, you're gathered
in
kind
the
of.
doorway.
Yeah, kind of
In the hallway.
half in his room, half in the hall. He's got the door open.
Can we continue this inside the room, by any chance? That way we don't feel like we're ganking up on him, per se.
What you see going on as you are stepping slowly through the doorway, Valletta is facing down Nim, and they are having a conversation completely in sign language that is getting more and more agitated.
Don't
Nim,
yell at me.
yeah.
Mom!
Let me kind of show you on screen the kind of thing it's going. She asked, "What have you been making?" And this ensues. And she goes, and he goes,
We believe he made duplicates.
and she goes, and he goes, and she goes, oh, yes, well, he doesn't know anything.
Inside check.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to insight check. I'm just going to call her a lot.
Ouch.
We are
Oh,
going to...
yeah. There's my good roll.
There you go. Yeah, I can save the second level spell slot.
Relian can clearly see on her face, she is panicked.
Madame, there's no reason for subterfuge here in this situation. You have my vow that anything spoken in this room will not make its way back to the guards. At least not in a large way. So don't worry. No one, and I mean no one, he looks at her pointedly, he looks at Nim pointedly. No one here is in any trouble. We're just looking for information. Now please, really, tell us what he's been making.
Nim, I swear, if you don't make this right, you are never going to see light of day again. You understand me?
Madam, please.
It's
We want.
largely possible that he himself cannot make this right. That is what we are here to do.
But he can help us make it right.
Indeed.
Ma'am,
And
let
he-
me make.
Nim is motioning and doing things. He's giving, you can clearly say, I'm sorry, and he says something to her in sign language, and she frowns, but we're not ready for people to use that yet.
Ma'am, we have to be perfectly frank. We came here because a few hours before, a Nimblewright attacked a group of people.
I wouldn't put it that way. An incident occurred involving a Nimblewright. We're still trying to understand the nature of what happened that caused it to be where it was. Whether it was being used by somebody possibly from here, possibly through a third party. There's a lot of unknowns and way too much to potentially speculate on to put blame on any one thing.
And on that note, let me alter the question slightly. Nim, you were not out and about last night. Let's say that's true. Were any of your creations out and about last night?
Please
Yes or no?
Valletta says, let me tell you what is going on here. It appears our intelligent metal friend was lonely. He made another one, which of course was not found. But the other one appears to have been curious about the city and it left.
I want a very strange question. Do you and yours have any access to any magical artifacts that could potentially cause damage if used incorrectly?
Well, I suppose some of our metallic creations could always be used in dangerous ways. I don't know what you mean.
But you don't have anything that can cause magical effects, such as a lightning storm or fireballs or ice storms.
Some of the creations create lightning, like static electricity when they are operating, but not directly the way you're asking it. We're not a magical temple. We're a temple of hand creation.
Yeah. Well, whatever the case, we wish to find this rogue Nimblewright. Do you have anything that can help us with that?
She points at Nim like, this is on your head kind of look.
Nim.
Like the Jewish mother, this'll be on your head.
I'm just going to hold up a hand and crouch down to be it. How tall is Nim, by the way?
Human height.
Okay, so in comparison to Nokri's height, shorter or just as tall?
Just human height, the same height as maybe the shepherd is.
I would
Alright.
assume that Dragonborn is even size.
You're breaking up.
I'm assuming that Dragonborns are probably slightly taller than you.
A little bit taller, a head taller perhaps. But you see a look on Nim's face that indicates he's trying to cooperate. He might have something for you.
I'm going to bring my head down to be at eye level with him. Nim, this is very important, and I know your mother figure in this situation is very understandably upset. We don't want harm to come to you. Look at me. We don't want harm to come to your friend. But it is very important that we find them before someone else does. Do you know how to find them. Do you know? Can you have them come home?
Can you lead us to him?
Can you tell us where he's gone?
And he makes a bunch of hand motions, and she turns to you, and she says, Nim cannot leave the temple, so he cannot assist you in this. But he says he has created a device to find his creations when he loses them.
Maybe borrow it for a time being. Like I said, we don't want harm to come to them, but we need to find them quickly.
Nim turns around and goes over to a kind of stone pallet sort of thing that apparently he lays down on when he's resting, and he pulls out a section that just looked like a regular section of stone, but it actually pulls out almost like a drawer, and Valletta kind of looks at him like, I didn't know that was there. But anyway, he pulls this out, and he very carefully takes out a little device that is about 6 inches long by 6 inches wide and about 4 inches high, and it has a funny little device shaped almost like a gramophone hood on top of it that rotates.
So it's a boxy sonic radar.
It looks like it's got a lot of spiral coils and various things on it, and it looks like a little tiny miniature gramophone, kind of like the Grammy Awards trophy.
Oh, Gizmo.
Okay. So I'll just have him show me how to use it, type deal.
And he will show you how you push buttons and you do various things, and then he'll make some hand motions to Valletta. And she says, it will move slowly and pick up if it is within 500 feet of a creation, and if it gets within 50 feet of it, it will spin very fast.
Thank you. We'll try to bring them home.
Good. And from now on, Nim, now I will talk to the headmaster. I will see if I can't get you into the classes. But you are not to make any more creations that we don't know about. Is that understood? Do you see why I've been telling you not to do it? This is what comes of it. We can't let them roam on their own. Please don't make any more creations.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to buy Nim.
Ma'am, his intentions, being that he's lonely, I don't blame him for what's happened. For all we know, the curious one might have found someone who ended up tricking them into doing something wrong. I'll explain on our way down.
Or more than likely, it's possible that he saw someone about to do something wrong and tried to intervene. If nothing else, at least your creations have a good moral compass on them.
Epiphany attempts to mentally connect with Nim.
This should be interesting.
You get
no idea if it happens or not.
You get the strangest mental whirring and electrical zapping and zipping, and the logic pattern is completely like anything you've encountered before. It's all in zeros and ones.
So it's static binary.
I would say as
high off his rocker.
I'll just say as we go down, I'll explain the situation a bit more to the is she the headmistress or yeah?
No, she's one of the main priests, but not the headmistress.
Is Nim coming down with us?
She will motion to order him down, and he will kind of, like a kid that got in trouble, he will kind of troop down.
Yeah.
I would go to Nakri and tell her it's probably best we don't say anything about what happened quite yet until we conclude our investigation.
The guards will probably be here to question them anyways if any of the witnesses told them of what they saw. Regardless, we should at least let her know that they are most likely going to be on their way.
Yeah, better to get their cover story straight. Nim, are you happy here?
We do not like this place.
Shepard, do you think we should tell them or not? I'm, for one, willing to let her know, so she's not caught off guard. This is shocking enough as it is for her.
Or would I have to roll to make sense of his sign language?
You'd have to talk to Valletta.
Okay. I have no idea what he said.
Well,
I'll defer to your decision. I don't think that we should put unnecessary strain on them.
No.
Was any of this...
Cashin already pretty much spilled the beans.
Yeah, she knows that something terrible happened, but are you sharing what your plan going forward is in her hearing, or are you waiting?
I'm whispering to Nakri.
Yeah, we would have kept this in super hushed tones.
Madam Priestess, I've got a question, actually.
Yes.
Are there any instances of freed Nimblewrights or autonomous Nimblewrights?
We haven't had, actually, the creations of Nim's capability in the temple before. Prior to this, the Nimblewrights were capable of carrying out simple orders. They were good as servants in a house. They could be told to bring the dinner as long as the orders were not too complex, and they could walk back and forth and do simple things. Nim is one of a kind.
Then Nim
maybe two.
Then Nim is not a Nimblewright. And Nim is not a thing.
That's right. Nim is a him.
Nim is motioning some things to her in response to what you're saying, and she
It identifies
just kind
as an Apache attack helicopter.
Funny.
She kind of shrugs at him. Well, I told you I would try to get you in as an acolyte. You are unusual, Nim. This is the first time we've encountered this.
Nim, what do you want out of life? Out of your strange life as you have?
Are you going to try and recruit this one as well, Rick?
I want to buy him. He's fun.
We cannot buy him.
He's said a lot of things that she hasn't translated.
Ralliant.
Person, not
let us resolve one matter before we go attempting to adopt another.
He's adorable.
I will.
I've got a question. I've got a quick question. Is that picture adequate? Does he actually have a metal molded beard and mustache?
He could. That's the standard Nimblewright picture.
I'm just going to say he does, and say, look at his beard. It's amazing. I too have a beard. I keep it in my pocket.
Well,
God, Ralliant, darling, I will agree with you 100%. But let us try to make sure that he doesn't take the brunt of what's happened.
and meanwhile, Cashin's just thinking aloud to himself. So, if we use that thing, we can hopefully find the Nimblewright. But if we just do it by foot.
Let's just do it by foot. I'm gonna look over because I'm just gonna look over Cashin. Nim's creation. Simple as that. That is what we're looking for. Let's not put labels on something we don't know what we're looking for yet.
It's a Nimblewright. Alright? And whatever the case, it'll take a while to find it in this city. If only we had one of those griffins.
Well then, Mr. Connections to most of the people in the city.
Is she talking to him or me?
You're asking a lot from me.
She's just throwing it back at him.
You're asking a lot from me.
I ask a lot out of everyone, and you should be aware of that by now.
I refuse.
Then you're just not going to get right on the griffin, are we? We're burning daylight. Let's go.
Now, Valletta has been speaking with Nim. this whole time, and they just come. She finally reaches out and puts a hand on Nim's shoulder. I understand, but I'm afraid that's just the way it is. You're going to have to take this, but I will try to do things that will help you find an outlet for your intelligence, my dear. You have to learn to adjust.
No, you must adjust.
I'm afraid that the agreement, I'm afraid, sir, that the agreement with the city is quite firm. Such creations of his level cannot be allowed to roam freely because they don't know what to expect out of them yet. And it is quite firm. You would have to get the entire lordship, open and masked lords, to agree to allow the limitations to be lifted.
Epiphany looks like he's about to burn the whole place to the ground.
Epiphany, one moment. We do need to get going, though. Her name was Valletta?
Yes.
You said? Okay. Madame Valletta, I can't make any promises, nor will I even try. What I will guarantee is that we will try to get and locate Nim's creation before something else, or before bad intentions happen towards your place. Things might have been misconstrued by a misunderstanding.
If, as you say, others saw this, they're going to be knocking at our door, and she kind of looks at Nim. We will, Nim, let us not speak of your other creation until these people help us round it up. Is that agreed?
If they have to make you speak, I would say at best let them know that there may be just a rogue one that got loose. Something simple.
In short, my bronze friend, if they ask you any questions that you don't want to answer, lie your metal rear off.
I'm going to try to keep him well away from interviews. If they find out that one escaped, it's going to be rather bad for the temple because of all the agreements we made with the lords that we would ensure that they remained on the grounds. This could be quite bad for him.
And precisely. We'll see what we can do, but just be prepared.
Yes, certainly we will. I will have... Yes, that's what I'll do. I'll have one of the other priests speak with them that wasn't with us. And Nim, perhaps you should go back up to your room for now. And please do not use the hatch onto the sphere again. Please stay under cover. Am I understood?
For your sake, please do. I would hate to see Riley upset if something happened to you.
So Nim sadly turns around and kind of slump-shouldered trumps back up the stairs towards his room, and Valletta turns and accompanies you down.
Before he does, Roland's just going to give him a big old hug, and he's going to whisper to him, "I'm going to find a way to help you."
I'm just going to watch Reliant and just chuckle to myself at this point.
So, if you're really set on getting a griffin...
Well, you're the one who brought it up, after all.
And before we leave, Epiphany will also mentally send a thing, whether he understands it or not, just says to mentally to we are not things.
It takes about a minute to transfer into 100101010.
Big long string of ones and zeros, and finally, as the recognition comes on his face, he looks around. He's not sure where that came from, but he looks at all of you and goes, like, no, I'm not.
I'm gonna pat Epiphany on the arm, even though I don't know what was said or anything like that. Just that one of that weird feeling that it's like, you know what? Give him a good old sympathy pat on the arm. Like, just, hey, I'm here for you, buddy, and keep going.
Very good. Valletta leads the way down, 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 down. The spiral staircase back, yeah, back to the main temple area. You go through the various layers of more and more advanced priests who are creating these various things, and you see a bunch of the ordinary Nimblewrights that are being lined up and taught how to march for the parade and various things as you go down.
All right.
All right, we will call the active thing at this point because this is a good stopping place, and I'm going to tell you how we will go about it. We'll count the number of wards that are in the city. It will take you a half-day's search for each ward that you walk up and down if you are walking. If you are able to arrange any other method, we will debate that when it happens, because that may be something that you want to do. And if you walk the wards, then you will look at the map. I think there's 8 wards, possibly. Does it say there? It says the city is 8 square miles, but basically, I've just got to look at the number of wards in the city here. Let me put you on the city map so you can look along with me.
I've actually got an idea about that.
And you will say the wards in order of what you want to do. So Field Ward, North Ward, Sea Ward, that's 3.
If you do count the City of the Dead, otherwise the ones that are...
Yeah, that's considered a ward.
8 wards.
Yeah, that's what I thought there was. So it would take you 4 days if you decided badly. It could take you as little as half a day if you happen to pick correctly. So,
Okay, sorry, continue. I got a crazy question, but go on.
Go ahead.
So my crazy thing is, we heard that the automaton, I'm just gonna call it an automaton because the other word, it went towards the House of Inspired Hands, that direction from the roof, correct?
It ran west. That's all you know.
Well, I'm just saying, from where the Trollskull is to where the House of Inspired Hands, that's going west, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just for the sake of time, and we can play it out next week, the second that we get through the gates of the House of the Inspired Hands, Nokri's going to turn on that thing and keep walking with it.
All right. So
back towards Trollskull.
All right. So you're making a straight line towards Trollskull from it. So let me zoom out here. You will go through. Let's see. Inspired Hands
Belzorin.
Is in the Dock Ward, right? Or is it in Sea Ward?
Sea Ward.
Yeah, it's in Sea Ward.
Sea World.
Because he said it'll start setting it off at about 500 feet, and within 50 it'll start spinning faster, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. But since we remember hearing that it went in this direction, which is what led us to the House of Inspired Hands, backtracking, I'm going to see if it starts picking up on anything going.
So you'll basically have 2 wards because you are in North Ward, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So you'll have Sea Ward and North Ward that you will be going through on your first journey with the device. Will be the 2 that you will be doing. I will. So you're doing it right away. And I will tell you before we log off that as you walk back through the sea ward, going slowly and moving up and down just a little bit to kind of get all the streets enough that you know you're within 500 feet of something from end to end, you don't get any reading in the sea ward. So it is now 1 o'clock, let's say, half a daylight time. It's taken you like 4 hours to walk the sea ward up and down enough to get a reading to know it does not appear to be in the sea ward.
Okay.
So that's where we will leave it, and you haven't gotten any reading. Anything else you want to deal with, just OOCly or any planning for next time before we leave it?
I want to, with the suggestion of getting with the idea of getting a griffin, where would the closest place be to get a griffin?
The griffins are down at the Castle Mount and in around the main Hall of Justice and Castle area, that official area of the city. They are kept in a compound down there. I've actually got some information that I will pull out in preparation for that. So if you decide to do that, I will be prepared next time to have you that information.
I've got a question that might be slightly cheaper. Does Waterdeep, what does Waterdeep do ward tours like other metropolitan, big civilizations? Like, do they say, "Hey, come pay me and I'll take you through a cart-bound tour throughout all the wards"?
There are hack drivers that will give carriage tours, yes. As a matter of fact, Maxine owner does that.
Yeah.
We're going
back to visit Gord Horse.
Yep.
So we're gonna go see a talking horse next time, boys and girls.
I mean, I will. You guys are just the irregular.
Who's to say that the hack driver will give us a thorough tour of the city?
Because we'll ask him.
Because it's one of Shepard's ish contacts, quote unquote.
Yep.
I mean, if we
the horse is my contact, not the.
You know what I mean, though.
I will say as DM that even if he doesn't give you a thorough thing, I would say he would certainly cover enough streets in any given ward that you would be at some time within 500 feet of every point in that ward.
Yeah, so my thinking is we've already done the C ward. We know it's not there. If we just check the western wards, that's still 3 wards left to do, because logically speaking, it most likely will be in the western wards because that's where it fled.
Well,
if we do 3...
Sorry, go on. No, I thought she was saying that the 2 wards that we would be crossing would be north, which is where we started off in, and C ward.
It's not in the C ward, though.
No, yeah, that's what
she's headed back towards Trollskull Alley, and so she wanted to go back to Trollskull Alley, and in the process of doing that, wanted to check out North Ward simply because that's where home was.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if we split the wards in half, 4 wards on the eastern side, 4 wards on the western side. I know it doesn't split up that evenly on the map, but I'm just saying the 4 wards that are westward, we've already done the C ward. Of the other 3 wards that are lean westward, it's most likely one of those because that's where it fled. If we use a hack driver to investigate and just ask, can you give us a tour of these 3 wards, that might cut our 4-day search time roughly down to maybe 1 day if we're lucky.
I'm going to ask you guys, OOCly off of the stream, to sit down with the map and you guys debate back and forth which wards you're going to do. Obviously, number 1 on the list will be C ward because you did that one. We'll cross that one off, but put that number 1. And then you will give me a list in order of what wards you are doing. If you hire a hack driver, it will take you 2 hours per ward. If you walk it, it will take 4 hours. If by any chance you are able to persuade, connive, purchase, bribe, whatever to get a griffin rider, you will be able to do the entire city in one day.
Hmm.
But I'm guessing the Griffin Rider will be immediately more expensive.
Probably, and I don't think we have the.
I mean,
We'll see what happens.
Again, someone mentioned that someone has connections.
Besides, if men were supposed to fly, they would wings themselves.
Hey, give me 2 more levels and we'll talk, okay, buddy?
Anyways, we'll figure
It
this out
is.
after.
It is Waterdeep, the city of intrigue. So yes, anything is possible. It's not that the dice may be with you, but most anything is possible. So at that point, we'll call it here for the evening. You have more information, and you did indeed get the information that was missing.
Yay. There was an argument. That's what we missed.
A very key argument, yes, with something very apparently important being stolen. So, yeah. All right, so at that point we'll say good evening, and what is Rellian's great, wise, and massive thing for us to know?
Bye, everybody. Look, I know sleeping under the covers during the summer is hard because you sweat and the blankets are too warm and everything, but you need to sleep with them on because without them you're vulnerable to monsters.
But my monsters come out from under the bed.
The blankets protect you.
Okay, good to know.
The monsters come from within.
I just whistle. I whistle all night, and they've never attacked me.
No, blankets.
I'll remember that now. Okay. Good night, all. See you next week on Crone's
Good night.
Crucible and Waterdeep.